Alrighty, y'all. Welcome to episode 6, Hooper's Delight here with Coach AJ, EBC, and Coach Key at Varsity Athletes. Today we are talking about the topic of program development as well as coaching and coaching philosophies, how we view it, how we look at it. Again, if you have a different opinion than ours, that is okay. We're just going to share with you kind of how we see it and how we think that the programs should be developed, as well as how players should be coached and how players can receive coaching.
Yes. First, tell me about this fresh fit you got on, because that shirt, I want one.
Okay, this is the exclusive. They said I'm too full of myself, so I had to just go out there and get my Keyshawn Liggins 4th round of the G League draft pick shirt
Yes,
with all the
sir.
accolades on the back if you want to see it.
Yeah, bro.
Just make sure that you come correct when you speak to me, and that's Coach Key. That's just the humbleness in me. And then also, as before, the unknown play shorts by Dre. So, and we got some Air Zoom Generation LeBron James first shoe that he wore against the Sacramento Kings there. And that's
sick.
what I got rocked on today.
I'm going with my all-time favorite shoe, the Jordan 11, the Patones, and then the NBA's best player right now. So, in my opinion, the Joker.
And is that the Joker jersey or is that the Melo jersey?
Oh, my bad. It's the Joker.
It is the
It's
Jokic jersey.
it's the
Okay.
Jokic jersey. Shout out to Melo though, because
Yeah, shout out to Melo.
they shouldn't. I think
Original 15, they did him dirty.
they did him dirty. That's more on that later. But yeah, so let's jump into this. This is a conversation that we've had snippets of over the last couple episodes about coaching, the right ways to do it in our opinion, the wrong ways to do it, kind of, the new school coaching versus the old school coaching. And we can implement that into program development as well. And I'll kick it off I'm a new school fan, the coaching, implementing, more freedom, creativity, the ability to make mistakes. I think that's how kids improve, by allowing themselves to make mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and then, fixing those and so on. But there's still, especially in Idaho, I'd say Idaho, we talk about Idaho being behind a little bit in high school basketball. It's one of the probably the lower end states when it comes to high school basketball and how it works and whatnot. We just got a shot clock, one of the last states to get a shot clock. It's just an older school attitude that I've seen. I coached at Eagle High School for 4 years, and so I was in the coaching scene. And it was difficult for me to see how many different programs and how many different coaches were doing things, in my opinion, the way I wouldn't do them. And that's, like I said, an old school mentality where if a kid shoots a shot and misses the shot, he's coming out the game. Instead of what I believe in is, if a kid has an open shot and he doesn't shoot an open shot, he's coming out the game for lack of self-belief and lack of confidence. And then we use that to instill confidence and instill self-belief into him. And so why don't you jump? You've played at essentially the highest level. You've had numerous different types of coaches, from high school to to club to different colleges and the G League. You played for the NBA Coach of the Year. You've seen it all. What type of coach do you enjoy? What type of coach can you not stand? And how do you coach?
Okay, so for me, again, with my resume, my first 2 years were in junior college. I played for the most winningest coach in California JUCO history at Cuesta Community College, that dealt with multiple different foreign players as well as Americans and people from all over. And he got us all to play together. We ended up leading, my team in particular, led the California JUCO circuit in assist. So that team was a little bit different, and he was a great coach. A coach that when I first got there, I didn't like. And it's mainly because I didn't understand the game the way that I do now, and I was so about scoring and getting moved on that I overstepped and overlooked the things that he did for me. He taught me more about the game than any coach I've ever played for before. From an X and O standpoint, he had a play for every single scenario, every single situation, so we were always prepared. A lot of our practices were longer than what the standard 2-hour practice was. He played for the Oregon Ducks coach that was called the Kamikaze coach. And so he had some of the similar philosophies. He would tape our clocks, and he taped the windows so that you couldn't see what time it was during the day. And a lot of times our practices would go 4 or 5 hours. So I was fortunate to play for him, and he taught me a lot, Coach Blair. So shout out Coach Blair. My second year, I played for Coach Mark Poth at Big Bend Community College, also probably the most winningest coach in the NWAC. And so Coach Poth was a little different. He was a player's coach. And there was things that he did that I liked and things that I didn't like. But a lot of times the things that I didn't like that he did were because he didn't have me in situations that I thought I should have been in, and that was me being a selfish player instead of a team player. So, but he was a great coach for me individually and for my teammates, for just the way he believed in us and the trust he had in us on the floor. My junior year at Idaho State, had a coach that told me I wasn't allowed to shoot, wasn't even allowed to look at the basket. Only thing I was allowed to do was rebound and guard the other team's best player. So my role was very challenging. It didn't matter how hard I worked. It didn't matter how I did in practice. But when I went out there and he gave me opportunity, pulled me out of my red shirt, I was out there to rebound and to defend. And it was hard. It was hard to play with confidence. It was hard to really showcase what I could do at that level. And that's why for those that will sit there and say that I couldn't compete at the Division I level, they have no idea the type of situation I was put in. I was redshirting, got put out of my red shirt with 15 games left in the season. I got suspended twice for bad attitude, and so and then I took once was for bad attitude, the second was for taking one for the team, and so I enjoyed my teammates there. I loved the togetherness that we had, but overall that experience and how that coach coached me wasn't something that was beneficial to me, and not only me. There was 7 guys that transferred that year, so the proof was kind of in the pudding. We lost a lot, and he kind of had a stricter leash on everybody except for a couple players, and those guys that were unleashed still didn't have fun, and we ended up not winning, and he ended up losing his job a couple years later and complete full circle. So, but no disrespect on him, just wasn't a good coach for me. My senior year of college, I had 2 really good coaches in different areas. My head coach was a confidence guy and believe in you and make you feel like you can run through a wall. And then our assistant coach, X and O's wise, phenomenal. Knows the game, watched the film, could get you to buy in and understand it. The stuff that he taught me on the defensive end was really propelled me throughout my career. And so from those coaching standpoints, how they both had like a little tandem helped when you would get subbed out. One coach was critiquing you and telling you what to do and how to adjust to it, and the other coach was, uplifting you, hyping you, telling you to plays. And so, coaching is one of the hardest things to do because it's hard to please everybody. And so I do cut coaches some slack. However, you know what you signed up for. And so when I look at the coaching around the valley, I would say that there is a couple good coaches and there's a couple coaches that kind of they like it, and which is okay. But I'm a person that's you either love it or you hate it, and you know what you signed up for, and there's a way that you can go about it, and there's a way that you can coach these players and be a mentor to them and be a light to them. And as we touched on before, but the way I look at it is I'd rather have 10 unleashed dogs than having 2. So, and I've said that before, and I think that it's very valuable to instill confidence into players because players will take you to where you want to go. As a coach, you can, you facilitate everything. You put in your plays. You put in your what I like to call the culture, and depends on where you start the culture. If you're only starting the culture with the varsity players, your program's not going to be very good. And so I think that the culture is started from the freshman team all the way up. And how much do you care for every kid in the program? Are you only caring about the stars? Are you only caring about the guys who scored the most points? Are you only caring about the best players of each team? How are you really developing your program? And then also, with the rule of 2, which I think is one of the dumbest rules ever, but with the rule of 2, which 2 kids are you really putting the time into? Are you constantly putting the same time into the same kids, or are you putting 2 different kids every single time? And which way are you developing them? Are the assistant coaches that you have hired on staff, are they participating in practices, open gyms? Are they organizing weight training? Are they doing extra conditioning? Are they around within the hours that you get? How much does your assistant coaches get a feel within your system? Do they get to say anything? Because I think with every great coach comes a great group of assistants. I think that a lot of assistant coaches get undermined and they don't get really spotlighted the way that they should. Mm-hmm. At Edinboro, our assistant coach, to me, outside of my very first coach at Cuesta College, I think that my assistant coach my senior year was the best coach I ever been around as far as X and O's and how he taught me the game and how he could really just get me to not think about all the things that I was thinking about myself. Like he got me to buy into the system, to buy into the team, to sacrifice. And he explained it to me. He didn't just say, hey, do this, and then just walk off. It was like, this is why.
Yeah. Which is a big problem these days,
yep.
Which we were talking about last episode. A lot of coaches come in with no feel relationally or no feel not getting to know their guys, not getting to know how their guys learn or how their guys understand. They just say things like,
Right.
don't do this or don't do that. Well, why? How come? When you have coaches that take the time to really walk you through it, to explain, to take an interest in you and the way you learn and the way you develop, is when you find something special. And there are a lot of hours that go into that. A
Right.
lot of film, a lot of hours, a lot of even texting,
Right.
calling. I enjoy that part of the game. I
Right.
enjoy, you know, sending NBA clips to the kids, the high school kids that I've coached and whatnot. I used to coach a bunch of shooters when I was at Eagle, and so I've said it before. I would go find a bunch of clips of Steph, KD when he was on the Warriors, and Clay, and how they get open, the tugging, the bumping, the pushing, the
Right.
pulling, all these different things. And so just instead of being like, hey, you have to find a way to get open, it's, hey, we have to find a way to get you open. Here's how the best players in the world do it. Here's some clips, see what they do here, and have those conversations. That's not happening a lot out here. And I'm going to touch on Idaho a little bit. And we're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. We're just giving our opinion. You stated at the end of last episode, if you don't like our opinion, there's an unfollow button. But we're going to share what we see based on our experiences and what we feel we know.
Right.
Once again, I'm not sitting here saying we know anything more than anybody else or whatever, but based on experiences and the proof that is in the pudding out there, how kids respond is positivity,
Right.
encouragement, uplifting,
Right.
you know, the appropriate discipline,
Right.
right? Constructive criticism, all these things, and the delivery matters, and all those, and that's a life lesson.
Right.
That's how you treat people. That's how, that's how what people respond the best to. And so when there's coaches out there who are just like, you don't have a voice. Don't speak.
Right.
Get in line. Do what you're told, and that's that. And if you have an opinion, you can sit on the bench. I don't care who you are or anything like that. That way of coaching doesn't work with this generation.
Right.
It does not work with this generation.
Right.
And there's a new generation. It's just a whole new feel. And I am more from the older school generation, I would say. I'm kind of in between, but I'm a big fan of the new school type of coaching, which is what you talked about having a little bit of, which is implementing, self-belief and confidence. And we talk about all the time, the freedom and the creativity. That's the most fun part of the game.
Right.
Like, don't be a ball hog and don't be this. And there's the teaching and helping develop the understanding and the IQ. There's a certain level of IQ that you can teach, and then
Right.
there's gifts.
Right.
Guys like Steve Nash have.
Right.
Jason Williams' gift to facilitate with kind of the flair, right? Different gifts that guys have that you can't coach and you can't teach. And that's something I've had conversations with people over the years is how do you teach the next level of understanding the game, of the IQ.
Right.
And it just gets to the point where there's a ceiling and you simply can't understand a guy how to see something happen before it happens. There's guys that just have that. And so it's been difficult for me being out here that there's more coaches that are not allowing the freedom and the creativity. And that's why there's more kids out here that are falling out of love with the game than in love with the game. I watched a game a couple weeks ago, and there was a team that they have 2 college guards on their team. I'm not gonna mention the team. There's a team that has 2 college guards. One's a sophomore this year, one's a senior that's committed to a Division II. The other one's going to be D1, and then they have 3 other guards, shorter guards. The 2 college guards, one's 6 foot, one's 6'2", and girls team. Then they have 3 other guards who are anywhere from 5'5" to 5'7", maybe even shorter. And a team comes in from Nevada and they press them. And the 2 college guards, girls that are going to be guards in college, who are their 2 tallest players, are sent down to the end of the floor. They're just standing there watching these other 3 girls that are not on the same level as the 2 college guards just turnover. And I'm sitting here like, why are the 2 college level guards sitting at the end of the floor watching their teammates just get harassed and turn the ball over and they're falling behind and all this and that? And I'm sitting there like, what is going on? And then I talked to them after the game and they're like, we're not allowed to come up on the press and get the ball. We have to wait till the press is broken. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So, and I'm not trying to blow anybody up, but like the lack of understanding in that and telling player, you can't do this. Don't do this. Don't shoot if you're open. Don't go get the ball if your teammates need help on the press is infuriating. It's confusing.
Right.
And this team is nowhere near as successful as they should be with two high-level college guards out here in Idaho at the girls basketball, at girls high school basketball. Though it's just, it shouldn't be happening.
Right.
And so that was tough for me. I vented to you on that, and I'm not trying to blow anybody up, like I said, but there's just a lot of things like that happen that I'm like, why are we putting restraints on these, especially the high-level players?
Right.
I watched the game last night, and there was a guy, the best player on the team that I watched, came out for a 5 to 6 minute span, and the gap closed, and the game got a lot closer. And I was like, when I played in high school, I didn't come out unless I asked to come out.
Right.
And I went back in as soon as I was ready to go back in the game as
Right.
one of the top players.
Right.
I'm watching top players come out for 5, 6 minutes. The whole game changes. They lose their flow, their rhythm.
Right.
They get cold sitting on the bench. You know what that's like.
Right.
And it just does. There's a lot of things that don't make sense to me. And I'm just going to vent about it right now. And I say this, there's a lot of bad coaches. And once again, that may be out of line.
Right.
But there are a lot of coaches that just don't have a feel and are doing what you say. They're doing it because they like it.
Right.
They're not doing it because they love it. And when you love it, you want to impact kids the way you talked about in last episode. Like, you have an obligation as a mentor and a coach to impact kids positively and be a light in their life and make them feel a certain way
Right.
and view it a certain way. And that's not happening a lot for
Right.
me.
Well, and I think too, like, the main thing is like not to bash, because I think a lot of kids nowadays, they take things so literal. And so we may get told, hey, he said this or she said this. And in the reality of it, is that might not would have been told to them. That might not would have been said, or wasn't the thing that was said, and they interpret it the wrong way. And then we have a built up idea of what they had told us. And so now the message is confused. And so one thing I will say is, because I do know this to happen, is that us as players, we also have to be able to take constructive criticism, one. Two, not take things so literal. Just because a coach says, hey, don't shoot that shot, doesn't mean, like I said before, not to shoot. And so sometimes, though, depending on what role we have and what situation we are, we make our situation subconsciously worse than what it truly is. And so, I try to give coaches some slack in that area, but at the same time, when you have multiple players from a certain team come and tell you certain things, and I hate to be the guy to ever tell you to go against what your coach says, because at the end of the day, that's the person that's in charge of playing you. So I could tell you a bunch of information and a bunch of things that could help you and a bunch of things that could potentially hurt you. Because at the end of the day, I'm not the one putting you in the game. So to the players too, you have to also be coached by who you're coached by. You have to listen to what your coach says, regardless if we think they're good or not, or you think they're good or not. But what I will say is that when it comes to a coaching staff and culture, I feel like that is the biggest thing that out here that I've seen that isn't built. There's only a couple programs where I can tell you the culture has been there, and they have built it, and they're continuing to build it, and they're continuing to add on. We've listed a bunch of programs over the course of our episodes, and I'm not going to get too much into it, but you can see the guys that are producing college athletes, that the coaches are actually helping their players get to college. Because it's one thing to just be talented and you're going to get something regardless, whether it's through club or knowing somebody. Maybe, for example, I've helped multiple kids get scholarships off of just my connections and who I know. But it's one thing to have that, and it's another thing to have a program and a coach that's actually willing to put their neck out for you and get you opportunities from the high school level. I'm not just talking about club, from the high school level. And so when it comes to your culture, right? So when I look at like a program development or building, how I would develop my program is I would start with the defensive end, which I feel like a lot of teams out here, if there is a team that is more athletic than them, they instantly jump into the zone. And instead of saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to teach these guys how to play pack line defense like a Virginia plays, or teach them how to play help side and teach them how to communicate. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've been looking for, is who communicates on both sides of the ball. And then who's the anchor? Who's the guy that's taking up the biggest role of the communication? Screen right, screen left. I'm in help. I'm in deny. Ball, dead. whatever, those things, because when you get in college, if you do not communicate, you are behind. So if a coach is not putting that into his program, your culture is already bad. And that's just from the defensive end. Again, with we'll go to offensive side, transition, fast breaks. Who has a primary and secondary break, and what are your actions, quick hitters out of those? Are you teaching those? Are you teaching the 2 and the 3 to run to the corner as fast and as hard as they possibly can? Are you teaching the rim run to get down the floor as fast as you can? How quick do you get the ball out? Because when you get to college, if a shot goes in, it's a banana curl from the point guard. It's an outlet either down the wing or right to the rim run. It's a score. When I'm going to a game, I'm looking and seeing how many of those plays happen. We talk about great coaches like a Jeff Sater. How often do you score out of sideline out of bounds, baseline out of bounds, where you get a wide open look off of a screen the screener, whatever action that you run, whether it's a box set, a line set, whatever, those are what determines to me if you're a good coach. Are you scoring out of your sets, or are you just relying on your raw talent? Because me, how I played, you can just give me the ball, I'm gonna get you a bucket.
Yeah.
But that only gets you so far.
Yeah.
There's a reason my team was the number one team in the state until we got to the district tournament, and then we didn't even go to state. There's a reason. You can't just rely on talent all the time. Sometimes you have to coach. You have to develop a culture and a setting. These guys should be diving on the floor. If there's a loose ball, if you bent over to pick it up, we got yelled at. We had a whole drill for it. If you ducked out of a charge, you had a charge drill. And now in this state, it's a lot easier because everybody's teaching the charge. That's a good thing that you're teaching, but also at the same time, in college and at these other fast-paced levels, you're not always going to get that call. You got to be in position. You got to be able to guard your man. Are you knowing tendencies? Are you teaching that? Are you developing that? Right? Are you game planning for that? Are you game planning for certain players like a Julian Bowie?
But are you watching? Like, are these guys even watching the film to pick up the tendencies?
Right.
Like you're talking about, like, are you game planning for? You're 100% correct. But how many of these guys are taking the extra time? That's my question for all the coaches out there.
Right.
Like how much extra work are you doing? And I'm not disregarding anybody, or I'm not putting anybody down, but based on what we see and we go watch, it's like, how do you not know this about that guy, about a Julian Bowie?
Right.
How is Julian Bowie catching the basketball
Wide open.
wide open? Why is, when he crosses half court, are you not getting the ball out of his hands and then face guarding him so he doesn't get it back, or at least making him work to where by the end of the game, when it's crunch time, he has no legs?
At least he's something.
There's something.
And throw different guys at him, and so
Yeah.
it's that, and honestly, it's just how you run your practice. How easy is your practice? Are you doing things that are just fun? Everybody loves to scrimmage, but does that get you better?
Yeah.
And what are you teaching within that? What type of mentality do you want your team to have? I look at some of these programs and you look at how they defend, you can tell that's what they work on.
Yeah.
You can tell that's their staple.
Timberline,
they slowed down. I have to say something
Yeah,
about Coach
I
Noble.
set you up for that one.
I owe him an
Set you up.
apology. I do owe him an apology. I was very critical of him because I don't like the style of playing slow. He has shut me up, and I have seen him now over the course of time build teams to defend. And it may not be my style because I'm more of a fast-paced, get it out, try to score 100 and smack people that way. Where I'm watching them, good job, coach. I got to say, good job. How your guys are, 11-1, 12-1 now?
Yeah, 12-1.
Team defense, team's tough, bunch of dogs, guys who compete. And so you didn't prove me wrong.
Yeah.
You didn't prove me wrong. So
Shout out Coach Noble for sure.
I will say, Coach Noble, you know what? I owe you an
Shout out.
apology. So, but when I look at these teams and I look at, again, the programs, I'm not judging or basing my opinion off of just the varsity play. I'm looking at a JV game. I'm looking at a sophomore game. And sometimes I might even pop up over to Meadow and watch freshman games.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the kids, and are you letting them run rogue? Are you letting them, do they have sets? Are you guys even running from the freshman to the sophomore to the JV? Are you running the same place?
So that's my question for you. When I coached at Eagle, and once again, not going to say names, it's just when I got there, I had come from Oregon, and in high school, I played for the two winningest coaches in Oregon high school history at the two places I went. And so program and culture obviously were built. So those coaches had everything to do with the middle school kids and all the way up, kids that they knew that they were going to get. And then I come out here, and the varsity coach is like, I'm going to do the varsity thing. I'm going to let the JV coach look at his personnel and you choose what you want to run there. Sophomore coach. So everyone kind of had their own program, right?
Right.
You have your program. And then I was a freshman coach my first year before I went up to varsity. And he's like, just run what you think will will go well with this kid. So I implemented my own stuff. And I was like, I don't know if and I didn't necessarily agree with how he was running the varsity program and the offense he was running. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna do what I think's best and whatnot. But there was no culture there. There was no preparation for the younger kids moving up. It was starting from scratch. That is going to deter you from getting where you want to go and reach your goals.
Right.
And that's what I've seen in multiple places. Like a lot of these coaches, there's coaches like Coach Nettleton. I see him at the Victory games. Like he's interested in what his guys are going to come in and do from Victory Middle School over to Lewis Clark Middle School, where he's going to get guys. He'll show up to games. Love that. Right. Coach Sainer as well does that. And, a lot of these guys do that. I think that's vital. And I think especially with you can go to any school you want now, as long as you start there. It doesn't matter where you live, I think is a new rule that's going to be implemented. These guys got to start doing their due diligence in going to these middle school games.
Right.
And it's a lot more work than I think a lot of these guys want to be doing.
Right.
And you see that in the fruits of their labor most of the time. And then what I don't understand is a lot of these coaches aren't held accountable out here. Doesn't matter if you go 2-24. You're a teacher at our school. We have something in place that is functioning. So let's just go with that instead of being like, what's best for the kids? Are we helping these kids that want to be athletes, want to be hoopers, reach their goals? Or are we just if something's in place and it's functioning, let's go with that.
Right.
When we're talking about the importance, it takes a village to raise a kid, right? I'm looking at the village these days, and I'm not sending my kid out to the village half the time with the world that we live in today and what's going on in public schools and all that. When you have a coach there's an obligation, like we continue to talk about last episode, this episode, when you have a coach, there's an obligation to be a light, to plant seeds of positivity and encouragement and all these things, and not someone who's just a teacher who can also coach to make it convenient for everybody involved, except for the kids. Because I see a ton of coaches out here who should not have jobs still. And people are going to watch this and get upset and be like, is he talking about me? If you think I'm talking about you, it might be for you. But there are a lot of coaches out. It's more, I feel like Idaho's late to the party and transitioning the new into the old, and the old doesn't want to see the new, which is our world and our country right now in general. We got 80-year-olds running the country, and we've got 38-year-olds who want to run for president, and there's a big, clash there. I'm not going to go political with it, but it's the same thing.
Right.
And the school system is essentially an extension of our U.S. government, and it overflows into coaching. Because that's part of what's going on. And that's how I feel about it. And I'm like, nobody's held accountable, but you want to come and show up and hold the kids accountable, even though you're not held accountable for your part, but they have to do their part. But then certain schools, none of it matters as long as it's functioning.
Right.
Pisses me off, dude.
Well, and
Can't do it.
I think for me, and I get, these coaches are people, and they have families, and they have all these things that they have, these other obligations, and coaching to them might not be the primary. It might be, I don't know. I can tell by the effort that you give, when are you doing things and how are you doing things. And, my thing is that if I was to coach and I was a losing program year in and year out, I don't deserve to be a coach. And people would say, well, it's not all about winning or losing. What in life do you strive to lose at? In life.
Yeah.
What do you strive to get second at? What do you strive to be okay at? Nothing. You strive to be the best in every single thing that you do. Every day, you got people talking about mental health and all these things. They're striving to be the best version of themselves that they can be. If I'm sitting there allowing you to witness and be a part of poor performances over and over and over and underachieving over and over and over again, I am doing you a disservice as a person. Forget sports.
Yeah.
Because now I'm teaching you that it is okay to sit there and get your butt kicked and not to do anything about it. I'm teaching you that it's okay that as long as you're there and you show up and you wear your tie, that it's okay how it goes. No, it's not. Because what you're creating more average people and you're creating more employees. Not knocking it. Somebody like me, I want to get to the top. I want to sit there. I don't need attention. I don't need you to, either way I look at it, whether you love me or hate me, you still a fan. I'm still on your mind. I'm going to teach my kids, you know what? You're going to have haters. The better you get, the more people that are going to hate on you. When you're terrible, people should say something to you. It should motivate you. It should sting a little bit. There's no softies in this. My biggest slogan, quit being soft. I can't put out a product getting their butt kicked every single game, and every single year I miss state and I keep my job. I'm failing you. And if I'm in it for you and for these kids and I want to develop a culture to win and I never win, what am I doing? I'm wasting your time, my time. I'm not going to get into the pay, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so for me, you have to, when it comes to your culture, your environment, and how you present yourself, there's a way to win, there's a way to lose. I love winning, but I hate losing more than I love winning. And so when I sit there and I look at guys laughing and they're down 20, 30 points and they're laughing and the coaches are cracking jokes to the other team's players and this, that, to me personally as a competitor, I couldn't play for you. I couldn't play for you because I would say something to you because that's not, my mom raised me to be elite. Everything that I've ever done in my life, every single accomplishment, my mom said, okay, Key, now that you did that, here's how you can be better. Here's what more you could have done. My first 40-point game in high school, I had 44. My dad was mad. Well, you didn't have a triple-double. So there was never a complacent part of anything that I've ever done. I was the first triple-double in Big Bend history. Guess what? My dad was like, you had 13, 12, and 10. You could have had 20. You could have 15. Just kept going up. There's never been no complacency ever. And I don't want to be that way.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I achieve something, there's always the next thing. As soon as I win a ring, how do I win the next one?
Yeah.
And then the next one. I don't like just winning by 1 or 2. I'm trying to destroy you. I'm trying to win by 50. Mm-hmm. Do it with class. Okay, we can do it with class. Me personally, I'm going to beat you by 100 if I can. Because I want you to know we put in more work. We have went through harder things than anybody in your entire program has. And so now when we punch you in the mouth and we keep punching, you're going to feel every single thing that we went through. Every single suicide, every single 16, every single rebounding drill, charge drill, full court one-on-one. You're going to feel everything. And that's how I'm going to instill my program. Now, if I lose, right, and we play the right way, we play hard, we compete, and my kids are giving everything they got, and I only have this amount of talent, fine. Okay, I lost. But if I'm continually losing and I have great players or good players that have went from a school to another school and dominated against you, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
And for us to sit here and continue to say, oh, well, you know what? He did good 10 years ago. We don't care about what you did back then. What have you done lately?
Yeah.
When I look at my job and my training, I don't got to sit there and like, yeah, I'm wearing this shirt with this G League. I don't care about this G League no more. This was gone, long gone. What are my players doing? Mm-hmm. When they succeed, it's what I expect. I don't need a trophy. I don't need to be right there, and you don't need to put me in that. When they're failing, though, blame me. That's the level I hold myself to. Blame me. I'll take the blame. Don't worry, we'll get in the gym. I'm going to push you harder. We're going to go a little harder. I'm going to go and watch the film. I'm going to go break it down, and everything that is required from me, I'm going to give. I might have to lose a couple hours of sleep. I may get home an hour later or 2 hours later. I may have to go watch another 3 or 4 games, but I'm going to sacrifice it because I know the effort that you have to put forth to get something, to succeed at something. And that's what I think that the culture of these programs need to be based upon. That's why we talk about Meridian. We talk about Owyhee and the cultures that's built. Jeff Sander placing player after player after player into college. Don't ask for nothing. Don't ask for nothing. Andy Harrington with the tournaments and playing the top teams in the country and getting all these you think he has to sit there and tell you to come to Owyhee High School? He don't got to tell you. You got 10 jerseys, 10 shooting guns. You playing the national schedule. I don't got to tell you nothing. Mm-hmm. So when I look at it like that, we can sit here and we can complain about certain things and we can blame, we can fault coaches. But coaches, as you said, need accountability. And if I was an assistant coach on a staff and I looked at our practices and we were dogging it and all of those things where we weren't going hard, we weren't competing hard, we were okay with losing, we were laughing and giggling, we were quitting. You should never quit no matter what the score is. If you're down 20, you should still have a belief that you can win and compete like you have a chance. But if you just give up, what are you teaching these kids? Male or female? It's not okay. And so for me, I'm not going to be too hard on a coach should do this, X and O's. But what I am going to say is you instill a culture into these players and into your program. And it starts from the youngest all the way up. Are you making the freshman team run 16s? Oh, no, well, we won't see them for another 2 years. Like I know Coach Sainer at Meridian, his JV coach is pushing them kids hard. Them kids is running, they're prepared. So by the time that he gets them, he only just has to tell them where to go.
Coach Shelby, shout out.
And that's how they develop their kids. If you look at the kids that he's built, he's got dogs. He's got dudes that are football players that could come in and contribute. Even Zeke Martinez, he's not playing basketball no more, but his freshman year, his sophomore, what he was doing to these kids, oh my goodness. But it's a competitor. And it's the level of which he has his teams compete at. Coach Harrington at Hawaii, Coach Noble at Timberline now. It might be slow, but these guys are diving on the floor. You got guys who are grabbing offensive boards and ripping through people and going up. You got guys talking trash. I'm cool with it. Coach Josh at Santan, with all the shooters, we're going to outrun you. We're going to shoot these threes. And guess what? You got to stop us. You got to play our pace. Those are things where I'm like, all right, this is what you've done for years. I have seen it, and you've been consistent. You've went to state title games. You've won a district championship. You've had less and achieved more. I get upset when you have the most and you achieve the least. Mm-hmm. Or you limit the potential of certain players because you don't want to believe in them at that moment or at that time. Or you don't want to convey a message to them to where they can understand it. And so for me, that's the biggest thing. How do you communicate with your players? How do you connect? Do you only care for them for the 4 years that they're with you or the 1 year that they're with you? Or is it a impact on their life that you have for the rest of their life? I don't want any transactional relationships.
Yeah.
So how I coach and how I train, this is not a transaction. It isn't a, hey, how are you, client trainer? It's not that. No, once you sign up with me, as long as you rock with me, I'm with you forever, wherever you go. So when you get married, I better be getting the invite to your wedding.
Yeah.
I better be there. Because that's what I care about. And that's what these coaches have the opportunity to be for these young men and women. You have that type of impact you can make, where they're telling a story about you at the wedding. Well, Coach taught me this. Coach Andy Jones at Timberline for the women's. The players that he's coached over the course of time that he's coached, the amount of championships that he's won, all of those girls that have ever been coached by him can tell you stories about him. I know stories from the time when I went back to high school, before I left Idaho and came back. I still hear stories about him all the time. I still hear it now. I've been out of 10 years in the summer out of high school. I still hear stories about him. I have my own stories about him. He never even coached me.
We heard a story the other day from Spencer when we were hooping about Coach Sainer. Coach Sainer, you keep saying, I want to give Coach Jeff a shout out because he's considered to me the best coach in the state. You shouted out Noble. I want to shout out Jeff because he encompasses everything you're talking about.
Right.
And he doesn't want any of the glitz and the glam and glory. He wants these kids to have a positive experience and be able to come back. And he's told me, we've met before, and he's like, I want these kids to be able to come back and be like, you affected me positively.
Yep.
You changed my life for the better. You pushed me in the right direction.
Right.
And Jeff knows that. And you just watch his teams and you hear the stories and all that. And, you know, he can be a difficult coach to play for because he runs a college system.
Yep.
And it's difficult for those reasons.
You gotta be ready.
He's introducing you to things that he's trying to prepare you because he knows. He played at BSU, he played at UW. Go Ducks, though. But Coach Jeff, shout out to him and just these different Coach Josh Oppersbach at Centennial has done a great job. And so I'm glad
that's a player's coach. That's a player coach, believes in his guys. He has one of my kids, and he told one of my kids that now goes there, he passed up on a couple shots, and he said, this isn't last year. You with us. Shoot it. I don't care if you miss. Shoot it. And that right there alone in itself does wonders. It does wonders for you because now you can actually be in a space that you enjoy coming to. So now your players are going to go a little bit harder for you. They're going to sacrifice a little more for you. And we're leaving out some coaches. There's some coaches that are doing this.
Yeah.
But for the coaches that aren't, this is for you.
Yeah.
And you can take this and hate on us and say they don't know what they're talking about. Again, part of the reason why this shirt is on, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've had all these coaches. I've had the good ones, the bad ones. I've been the player that was dumb and didn't listen. I've been the player that sat there and shut up and listened. I've been both of them. So I know I've been a role through 1 through 5. I've played every position. I know every spot, and I'm a sponge. I only want to improve. I still am the same way. I can speak to you about basketball. I can speak to these coaches a lot. I have a lot of good relationships with the coaches from Hawaii, from Meridian, from Eagle, from Rocky, from all these places. And I pick their brain, and I'll tell them if I have a difference of opinion than them.
Yeah.
They can tell me, forget it. You don't have to listen to me. That's fine. But I'm going to tell you what I see.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what I also hear, depending on what it is. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you back the best information I can to not only help you, but help the players that I have, because I want to see Idaho basketball succeed. Mm-hmm. So when I get passionate, when we get passionate and we sit there and we challenge coaches and accountability, you can take it as, oh, we're coming at you. We are. We need this to change. We need to have better coaching. We need to have better athletes. We're already getting more recognition. Let's have our product be up to that level. Let's not get to this position and then all of a sudden we throw out our product and nobody want it no more. So now we took away from all these kids that are coming up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's players like me, myself, Isaiah Wright, Gibson Berryhill, these cats, Bryce Gonza that have paved the way for these guys. Sam Simpson, there's more. The Bergesons from Ryland, Biggie, Ray, what? There's so many people that paved the way. DeAndre Jones, Talon Pinckney, that have all done so much for people out here that have went through it. Austin Bolt. Guys that sacrifice so much for the kids now and perform at a level. I'm not even getting into the down south. We got J.J. Eli, Telly Davenport, Malik Harwell they were dudes. Stephen Gonzalez, like guys that could ball. Jared Stutzman, the list goes on and on. King of Hands, I can keep naming them. That I grew up and seen. We had, when Paul Rush was coaching at Capitol, it went 26-0. The best defensive team I've seen in the state to this day. Nobody can score on them, picking up full court, dog after dog after dog. The culture was built. He won and won and won, and then look, now he's in college.
Yeah.
So we can't fault the people that were before us to have this type of opinions and be this passionate about it, because we want to see these kids do more. I want kids to do more than anything I ever did. I want to sit there and read about how all the things that they're doing, because you can go Google me, you can find everything you want to see. I want to be able to do the same for them and it be real. And I can sit there and evaluate them when they get to Division I or they want to get to a professional level. I can go and say, hey, this is what I know. I can help you in this area.
Yeah.
I know that this might have held you back at that time, but here's what I can give to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's as real as it gets to them. I want them to achieve everything. I want the coaches to be successful. I want the players to be successful. But if you're not doing your job, somebody got to say something.
Yeah. And that's what we're here for. That's why we wanted to do this. Not to attack anybody, but we're trying to do our part in elevating the game out here and sharing what we can and impacting lives. Speaking of impacting lives, you're going to be late for a training, my guy. So let's we could go even have a part 2 on this if we want. We could go coaching and program development part 1 and part 2 if we wanted. We'll see. But I appreciate you sharing all of that. And once again, all love and all positivity, and maybe not always positivity, but it's going to be real, and it's going to come from a place of love and trying to just make people better and uplift Idaho basketball and just the game in general, and most importantly, people's lives. So why don't you close us out and go change some lives right now, my guy.
All righty, here we go. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for gathering us here. Lord, I pray that you watch over us, guide us, lead us, and strengthen us. Thank you for using us as a vessel to, one, be an example to show good for you and of you, Lord, and that we can bring positivity to those around us, Lord, that we could also bring insight and information that could be valuable to these athletes that we get to talk to, or that tune into what we have to say, and maybe educate some of these coaches, Lord. Just give us the opportunity just to voice our opinion and to say things that can help grow Idaho basketball, Lord, as we continue to do this and continue to talk about these type of topics. Lord, I pray that you could just use us in the right way that'll be beneficial to all those that listen to us, Lord. And we love you and thank you for all the blessings in your wonderful name. Amen.
Amen. Go get to your training, baby.
Yes, sir. Got it.
My God.